patterns, permutations, time, rhythm, coordination, meter, concentration, tempo, modulation, groove. Welcome to the DrumMantra podcast. This is Rich Stitzel, and it's time to go deeper with your practice.
So what I did is, at some point I started realizing I can put in these sextuplets and make it sound essentially kind of faster than it is.
Polyrhythms, polymeters, what are they? How are they related? How are they different? Let's take a look.
Before I set up anything in a session, I try to find out, hey, what's the first song we're going to do? Can we go listen to it? Is there some kind of demo? And then, because I hate just throwing up any old cymbals and snare drum and whatever, building a kit and then going to listen to the song and go oh, well, I wouldn't use half the stuff that's up here.
The way to be successful at something is you have to be so passionate about it that time disappears. You do not care. You are just in it. You can't wait to wake up because you get to start again. And when you go to sleep, you hope that you dream about it. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about passion.
I really feel like that's a really underemphasized part of being a drummer is getting sound.
What happens is you're moving the accents everywhere possible in a measure of 4/4, a measure of 3/4, and a measure of 5/4.
Break it down, sometimes you'll do threes in each hand or whatever, but it's a combination of just those two things and throwing in a single kick drum or a double kick drum, and now you have these odd phrases.
Hey everybody, Rich here. Welcome back to the DrumMantra podcast, episode 23. I'm excited to share a conversation I had a few days ago with CARTER MCLEAN. CARTER is the drummer for Lion King in New York, and he's also the drummer for Charlie Hunter. He's on tour right now on the West Coast with Charlie, and CARTER's awesome. He's a great player. He's a great thinker. He's a very meticulous dude. I think you're going to dig getting to know him a little bit better. And before we get into that conversation, I want to make sure that I thank all of my drum companies for their support. The A&F Drum Company, Craviato Drum Company, Sabian Cymbals, Evans Drumheads, Vic Firth Drumsticks, the Polynome App, and the Box Kit Cajones. I love all of those companies. They're great. They make amazing instruments, and they are also awesome humans to work with. So check them out, and I'm sure you will enjoy that. One more piece of business. I want to let you all know that the primary series book number 2 in the DrumMantra canon, is now available, hot off the press. Stacks of them sit in my studio and are being mailed out daily. You can get the foundational series and the primary series together on my website as a bundle, and you can save 20% on that. Otherwise, if you have the foundational series and you've completed that book, the primary series is the next step. The primary series focuses solely on the 3/4 and 5/4 polymetric relationship and their function in 3/4 time, 4/4 time, and 5/4 time. It's a heavy book. It goes deep. There's a lot of coordination in there and a lot of phrasing concepts that will definitely change the way that you think of phrasing. There are 11 sections in the book. There are also 6 brand new rhythmic melody sections in every time signature, so you will really have a chance to start learning and thinking about phrases in 3/4, 4/4, and 5/4 time. I highly recommend it. It's great fun. I practice it every day, and I will be posting the audio file play-alongs to the book slowly as we go. So if you have the book, you'll have access to the free play-alongs, and you'll definitely get to go deeper with your practice with all of that. The book is only available at richstitzelmusic.com, so head over there and check it out. Okay, so this conversation with CARTER was pretty cool. CARTER and I became kind of social media friends maybe a year ago after he posted a video, and it really caught my attention, and I did the exercise. He played this exercise, which was a halftime shuffle that modulated into a 4/4 rock groove, but the shuffle in the hand then became this dotted 8th note figure, and then he sped the groove up again into a double time shuffle and then back down, and that kind of piqued my interest with Carter, and I thought, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. So I went home after a gig and did a video of the same thing and gave Carter credit, and I think he commented on it, and from there we sort of have been in each other's peripheral social media world. Every once in a while we'll say hey, and so our conversation today that you'll hear is the first time we've actually spoken in person. So I love how that goes down when you're just getting to know someone for real, and just kind of, feeling out the territory of what another person's like. It's a cool experience, and I hope you enjoy hearing that conversation. We go into a lot of detail about many different things: gear, building drums, practicing, teaching, endorsements, social media, upbringing, all kinds of things. So I think you're going to enjoy this. I don't want to talk too much longer because it's a nice, long conversation that we had, and I want you to be sure you get to all of the juicy details. So without further ado, here is the conversation between myself and Carter McLean.
Call is now being recorded.
Carter the Groove Master McLean.
I had to say something. I couldn't just say my name. That's too boring.
Well, I had to repeat it because I don't think that part's going to be recorded. So just letting the world know that that's how you named yourself when you called me. Carter the Groove Master. How's it going, man?
I'm good, dude. How are you?
Good. I'm great. I'm a little frazzled because I just got home from a gig, and I was trying to find my earbuds and I couldn't find them, so I've got to hold the phone.
10 a.m. gig?
At 8:30 a.m. hit at an elementary school.
Whoa, that's early.
There's a organization in Chicago called Ravinia. Have you played Chicago much?
Not really. I mean, I toured there when I was younger with this guy Melvin Sparks, but that was that was probably over 10 years ago.
Okay. Ravinia is the home of the Chicago Symphony in the summertime, and they also do like a 3-month concert series with anyone from like Bonnie Raitt to Seal to, just all kinds of stuff. And they have all these it's a nonprofit, and they have all these outreach things. So I'm an artist in residence for one of their programs. So I go into schools and talk about music to kids.
Oh, dope, man. That's great.
One or 2 days a week, yeah. And we also perform on other artists' concerts. So that's what I was doing today.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's day work.
Well, look, man, work is work. And if you're talking about music or playing drums, it's all good.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm finishing packing up. I'm literally going in to teach a lesson, then I'm getting my back adjusted, and then I'm playing Lion King, and then I got a 7:30 a.m. flight out of JFK to San Francisco tomorrow morning. So,
oh my God,
busy.
That's a busy one. And then, how long is your tour?
It's exactly 2 weeks. It's crazy. I'm sitting in my studio in Connecticut right now, talking with you, and then tomorrow night I'll be playing my new drum kit in San Francisco, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, I'm really excited. I ended up building. My 40th birthday is in May, believe it or not. So
I don't believe it. I actually thought you were a lot younger.
That's
actually
what a lot of people. It's weird. I'm like, after all the interviews and stuff, I say I was born in '78, and people are like, "Man, I thought you were in your early 30s." I'm like, "No, I'm going to be 40." But thank you. So yeah, music keeps you young. So I did that signature snare last year, and it sold out in like a few days. And the same guy, Paul, who made that drum for me, or the shells in Australia, this guy, Paul Wary, I asked him, I said, man, would you be able to do, like a 10, or like a 12, 14, 20, and then a 7x14 snare out of some different wood for me? And he's like, absolutely. And I asked Ron to make sure it was cool with him to put like the George Way lugs and everything on it, so it looked like a George Way kit. It's just, all the wood is super special. We were looking through pallets of different exterior finish pieces, and he found this one kind of run of this really crazy walnut that's like kind of like striped with a bunch of different colors. And then there's some figuring in it too. It's hard to tell in some of the photos, but it's really stunning. And I said, man, that's the wood. And then the shells are made, the snare drum is really crazy. I can't wait to play it. It's made out of turpentine wood, which is, all these woods down there have these crazy names. And the wood is like really dense on the hardness scale. It's like I think it's actually harder than ebony. It's like really difficult to work with. But he said, man, I'll try to do the snare out of it. Because I have a lot of snares that are real warm sounding, so I wanted something that was warm but still had some crack to it. So I did a thicker plies of that, and then the outer and inner plies are the walnut, just for, visual, so it matches everything. And that's going to be really dope. And then the rest of the kit, the tom, floor tom, and kick drum are made out of this wood called black butt. That's like, I guess it's a little bit harder than maple maybe. So the shells are pretty, they're more dense than I normally would go for, but I already have 3 other George Way kits at home that are, both two are walnut and one is mahogany, and those are both really warm tone wood. So I wanted something just a little different. And then Remo sent full set of heads for me to put on the kit so I can use them on tour, the way I like to have them sound. So I'm using fiber skin diplomats on all the toms, on the tops and snares. And actually on the kick drum too, is both sides are going to be a fiber skin diplomat. And then the bottom of the toms, of the toms is just a clear diplomat. So I like thinner heads. I feel like you get a little more articulation. For the way I play, I don't hit super hard. I feel like I can get more music out of the drums that way.
Right. Do you do fiber skin a lot on the toms?
Yeah, I love them. I mean, I mess around. I mean, I use these things called skin tone that they have that are even thinner. Those are really great if you're gonna just crank them for the bebop kind of zone.
Right.
They sound really nice for that. But then the kit I have at home now that I've been playing on, I just put some coated ambassadors on them and they sound great. But there's something, the fiber skin diplomats are basically the same thickness as an ambassador. They're not really thin because of the coating or the process. So they're just to me, a darker, warmer version of an ambassador, like a coated ambassador. So I just can't wait. I'm going to literally land, meet up with Charlie, go get my drums, which are at his manager's house in San Francisco, and then just basically put all the heads on and then roll over to sound check and, get going. It's going to be kind of a long day tomorrow.
That's exciting though. That's a good way to have the energy to get through the day when you have all that fun to look forward to.
Exactly. Yeah. The 6-hour flight will go by hopefully quickly because I'll be asleep. So.
Will you carry your cymbals?
Yeah. I mean, I just actually packed everything. I endorsed DW hardware. So I had a bag of the ultralight hardware, which I use at home. I mean, I just use that stuff because I just like simplicity. And, technology now, you can go super light and put a 22-inch ride on something and whale it, and it's not going to budge,
Right.
So I had them ship the bag of ultralight hardware with the kit and head. So everything's there, but I'm bringing a super simple ultralight kick drum pedal that they make and then an additional snare stand that I'm going to put the tom on because I didn't want them to drill a hole for a tom mount. It'll just go old school snare drum stand. Yep. And then, typical clothes, bunch of, 2 pairs of jeans, trying to go super slick for the tour. Because I threw in a bunch of Four Hands drumming t-shirts and merch and stuff in my bag.
Oh, good.
So I got to keep it under 50 pounds, So, yeah, and then I just bring a cymbal bag. I'm bringing 2 rides and a set of hats, and that's it.
Nice.
And then, some big fat snare drum mutes and a bunch of, shakers and this index percussion hard hat thing, which I really dig with Charlie. It's kind of like a tight secondary hi-hat kind of sound.
Where do you put that? You put that, above the bass drum, kind of next to the tom?
No, there's a hole in the bottom of it, which I'm sure is to, mount on something, but I just put it on the snare. Or on the floor tom, just on the drum and play it that way, which is kind of cool. Oh. It changes that drum. Wherever you put it on drum, it mutes it. So you get this real staccato snare sound or floor tom sound, but then you get this hi-hat kind of thing on, right there. And then if you put it on your main snare, you have these 3 articulate sound sources right next to each other, which is cool if you're playing kind of tight groove stuff. It's pretty cool.
What was that again? I'm not sure I understood what you said it was.
Oh yeah, it's this company Index Percussion, and they make shakers and a bunch of really cool stuff. And this thing is called a hard hat, and it's basically crashers mounted on this kind of block of wood that's maybe a foot long or something like that.
Oh wow!
And it's kind of like a ribbon crasher thing that's just kind of self-sufficient, and you can just kind of drop it anywhere. I think I've done a couple clips with it on Instagram and YouTube and stuff, but it's got a really nice sound. It's a real tight kind of hi-hat kind of sound.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Any morph stuff? Are you going to bring any of the morph stuff?
I can't, man. I would love to because Adam has been sending me some really cool stuff that I would love to take, but it's heavy, and if I'm if it's a question of bringing like a cowbell or all my merch, I got to bring merch.
Yeah, right.
But like I'm doing a clinic at Revival in Portland, which I think is sold out. Actually, they posted something that it was sold out, which I
think I saw that. Yeah,
but
that's awesome.
But I was
man.
like, cool. Yeah, I was like, I thought I'd be psyched if 10 people showed up, and they're like, man, there's a ton of people showing up. I was like, great. And they sell that stuff. So at the clinic, I'm going to try to borrow some and augment the kit with a lot of his stuff, because his stuff is really fun to play around with. I mean, it really opens your ears up to different kind of style of playing.
Totally. Yeah. I was out in Colorado this summer, and I really wanted to get over to him because I was in Estes Park, and I think he's in Fort Collins, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It just didn't work out to swing by in time, but
he's a great guy, man. Really cool guy. He's a great drummer, man. I borrowed his Gretsch kit when I played like 3 or 4 shows with Charlie out there. I forget, 6 months ago or something. And he was like, yeah, man, you could totally use my kit. It'd be fun to meet up. And we got to hang, and he was a really good, really smart, creative guy. And I watched him play, man. He's got a killer groove, really creative ideas. I mean, he's a great player besides just making all that stuff,
That's awesome.
So,
I love that some of these new kind of artisan drum makers can also play. It's cool.
I think that's probably how they come up with this stuff. Like, he was probably working on something and said, man, I don't have anything like that sound. Maybe I can build it. And I'm not brave enough to put on the welding mask and start going to town, but he is. So, God bless him.
Yeah, right. So, where are you from? Colorado?
No,
I don't know why I have that.
It's funny. I was born in San Francisco, where I'm flying tomorrow, which is kind of random.
Okay.
I just put this together a few days ago that the kit I'm having made for my 40th birthday is going to be unveiled and played for the first time in the town I was born in, which is kind of cool.
Isn't that, wow, that's wild. That's great.
And I didn't even think about it. I was like, yeah, we'll just send it to the first gig in San Francisco. And then like a couple days ago, I said, oh, that's my birthday kit. Oh, weird. I'm going to be playing in San Francisco on my birthday kit, which is kind of weird, where I was born. So the beginning of the tour starts there and ends there, and we're playing the Independent the last night of the tour, which will be really fun. And then I'm going to have to box up the drums. I'm nervous about, I got to rebox them up and ship them back to Connecticut. So, yeah, back to your question. Born in San Francisco, grew up my whole life basically where I live now. I bought a house, one town away from where I grew up in Connecticut. It's about an hour north of New York City. So I used to go into the city all the time and see shows and stuff, which was great. And I'm just kind of like, I love the West Coast, but just growing up on the East Coast and how diverse it is, and just being near New York, I don't know if I could ever live somewhere else, especially just for where I'm at right now with Broadway. It's kind of like you're there if you're there.
Right, right. So you moved out there with your family when you were a kid?
Yeah. Like, I was only in San Francisco until I was like 2, so I don't really remember.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up basically my whole life out here, which is pretty rare. Like, I lived in the same house. I mean, my mom just sold that house after 36 years, so.
Wow.
That house was kind of around for a really long time, which is pretty rare. The more I meet people, they're like, man, I moved around all the time when I was a kid. You're lucky to
more often
be in one zone.
Especially. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your training? What's the story here? Because I know you texted me at one point, and I think you said that you were self-taught. Is that true?
That is true. Yeah.
Because Blair and I almost got caught on fire when I said that to him. I don't know if you heard the podcast I did with Blair.
I mean, I know Blair. We've hung out a couple times, and I don't know if we ever got into that.
I was like, man, Carter tells me he's self-taught. And Blair's like, what?
Well, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, people say to have that reaction, I guess, a lot. But to me, it's kind of like, if you do anything for, let's say like my technique got to a point where I could play pretty close to where I am now, probably by the time I was almost in, like high school. Like, I had a deal with DW Drums when I was 18, when I was a senior in high school, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
But technique for me, like, and the more I analyze it and try to teach it, people are always saying, man, how do you get your singles and doubles like that? And I really try to break it down as clean as I can to explain to people. But at the end of the day, man, it's just putting in the time. Like, if you do anything for, what's the Malcolm Gladwell, for like the 10,000 hours, you're going to figure out some stuff, because the human body, if you have 2 arms and 2 legs and you're in fairly decent, just if you're just a pretty standard human and everything is working as it should, the body kind of will like let you know if it's working or not. You know, like I'm a big believer in listening to what your body's telling you. If something, you know, guys come to me and they say, oh, I have wrist pain here, or my fingers feel weird, or I got an elbow thing or shoulder thing. You can tell it's like 90% of the time it's either posture or they're just trying to fit some weird technique into their playing that doesn't make sense, you know?
Right.
Because like I hold the sticks, if you're just sitting in a chair, you know, picture that, and drop your arms to your sides and you go and lift your arm like from your elbow to like you're going to shake someone's hand, that, if you put a stick right there, that's exactly how I hold my sticks. I don't think about it as American grip or French timpani grip or German or any of that stuff. It's just like this grip is comfortable. So the comfortable grip, you know? And that way, the ultimate thing is like, once your technique is kind of there, the only reason to have technique is to get your music across. You know what I mean? A lot of people get focused on technique just to have amazing technique, and then their musicality is not happening. It's like, man, you should spend 90% more time on listening to tunes than working on your single stroke roll. You know? Because a lot of that super technique, you're using that 1% of a show, maybe. You know? And it's like the 99% of it is just like musicality, feel, time, groove, how you're interacting with people, you know. I mean, that's the stuff I get really excited about with Charlie. It's such a musical high playing with that guy because he knows exactly what you're doing. He knows exactly where you can go. And, you know, when I first started playing with him, he said, you know, I know what you can do on the drums, so just don't hold out on me. He's like, you know, I'll go with you wherever you want to go. But we end up typically using a lot of space. And to me, that's like the funkiest, most grooving stuff is when there's these huge gaps and you're playing like quarter notes or half notes. You know what I mean? There's this huge gap. Because then people are kind of anxious because they're like, oh, they're not playing so much. What's going to happen? You know, and they listen. So, but yeah, long story short, I am self-taught. And I studied for about a year just to learn notation because I could play all this stuff technically. Like, I was trying to shed Dave Weckl records and Chick Corea Electric Band in, like, 6th and 7th grade just because I thought it was cool music and nobody told me I shouldn't be trying to do that, you know, which is kind of cool, you know, because if I had a teacher, they'd be like, whoa, you shouldn't, you know, start over here with a rock groove, which I did, you know, I played the Zeppelin and Guns N' Roses and went through all of that stuff and was obsessed with John Bonham and kind of still am. And I went straight from that into Rush and then Rush straight into, like, the jazz world, you know, or it was more like fusion jazz with like Chick Corea Electric Band. I wasn't like straight. I don't think I understood, and I still don't understand like the Elvin Jones kind of stuff. I'm still trying to figure that out.
That's kind of what you just said is how all of us sort of listen to the evolution of what we were into. I mean, if you're in the age range, I'm 47, so I'm just a little bit older than you, but that's the progression. It's like rock, prog, and then the fusion thing. But how, like, I grew up, both of my parents are professional musicians. Blair's parents are professional musicians. Ari Honig's parents are professional musicians. So I always wonder about who's raised in a musical family. You know, did you have older brothers or sisters, or how did you find out about these things?
So the parents thing, I mean, my mom was an interior decorator, and my dad was a stockbroker, basically, on Wall Street. So, like, not really music happening, but like, you know, they had records and stuff, but it wasn't like they were playing, you know, Marvin Gaye and stuff all the time. It was like, I don't remember them actually putting on records a lot. But I don't know. I mean, I remember a very specific time when we were like with some other family friends out in Long Island at at their house. And I remember it was like Born in the USA just was released, which I think was like 84 or 5, I don't know, mid 80s. And that Bruce Springsteen, that, you know, that obviously that huge, you know, album he put out. And I remember listening to it going like, this is cool. And kind of thinking like, I could see the hi-hat, snare drum, and kick drum like as separate things, you know, it just, I don't know, kind of clicked. I was like, oh, that's like this hi-hat thing. I don't even think I knew the names. And that's the bass drum and the snare. And it's just like a repeating pattern. And then I tried to figure out how you would do it. And I was like, I think I literally, like, that night was like, I think I want to play the drums to my mom.
Wow.
And I probably just bugged her for a little while. And like, I wasn't, you know, when you're that young, it's tough. And this is like obviously pre, you know, iTunes and internet and all that. So it's like, if you want to go check out a record, you got to have a stereo and you got to go buy a cassette tape. That's, you know, this is even pre-CD. So I was like, checking out cassette tapes and just kind of going, you know, maybe I should try to play the drums, because I wasn't super into sports. I mean, I played some sports, but wasn't super into it. I was into like rock climbing and skiing and kind of individual things. I didn't love like the team sport thing for some reason. I think my temper got in the way. I played lacrosse, got kicked off the lacrosse team because I ended up hurting some kids. But I just feel like I was better off doing stuff on my own and figuring it out without having to organize the whole team. Because that's what's cool about an instrument. You can go into a room and just get lost for years and figure out an instrument. Right. And that's basically what I did. I just shed in my basement to Zeppelin records and Rush records. And I remember learning Paradise City by Guns N' Roses was like the huge record when I started actually getting the drum kits together. And just learning that intro, that boom, clack, boom, clack, boom, clack. I was like, oh man, I figured out the intro, the drum solo intro part. This is cool. And I think I was kind of hooked. Actually, I will tell you a very quick story about how I really was like, this is what I want to do. So I had that led up to this stuff. And my dad was like, well, you haven't been to a concert yet. We should go to a concert. And I was like, yes, that sounds awesome. And when you're a kid, you don't really know what that entails. You're like, cool, I guess a band is going to play. Right. So he blew it out. So I was into the Rolling Stones, and so was my brother. And so my dad's like, all right, we're going to go see the Rolling Stones Steel Wheels Tour concert at Yankees. It was either Yankees or Met Stadium, but it was at a stadium, right?
Wow.
So we roll up, and I'm thinking we're going to be like, you know, in like the bleachers somewhere. We had second row seats at that show. And Living Color was opening up. Cult of Personality and Vivid, that album they did, was blowing up. And so the first dude I ever saw play drums live was Will Calhoun. And they came out and played Do-Bag-a-Goo-Gat, Goo-Gag-a-Goo-Gag-Gat. And I was like, that's it. These guys are killing it. This is what I want to do. You know?
Wow.
And that's a pretty huge thing for a young kid to see at a stadium. It's like Living Color coming out and just crushing it.
Yeah.
You know, so I was like, this seems very cool. I think I want to pursue this. So I think that kind of hooked me.
But you didn't get, it doesn't, I mean, obviously we've never met, but your personality doesn't seem like you got addicted to the rock star portion of music.
No, I'm very
You were
lucky
into the
that
music.
Yeah, I could care less about that stuff. People, and it was funny, man. Like, people are like, oh, you know, that's a great way to get girls, and da-da-da. I was just kind of like, man, I just like the music part of it. Like, all that other stuff is I could care less about. And I still, to this day, I could care less about being recognized. I mean, it's nice, but to me, I still feel like I'm 17 in my basement trying to figure out this crazy instrument. Like, literally every day. I still think that. I'm like in the drum room at Lion King tonight, and I'll probably be just like, you know, this is such a weird scenario. I still feel like I'm a kid, but I'm in this like great gig and people are buying it. So, okay, I'll just keep going.
Yeah. And, you know, the 80s were probably the height of that. Well, 70s and 80s with just the ego rock star.
Oh, yeah.
Personality and lifestyle. I think that's kind of changed. The social media has kind of put everyone on an even playing field in a way. I think, I think that's a little different nowadays. But, good for you for not getting wrapped up.
Yeah, I just don't have an addictive personality, thank God. You know, like, I just did a cleanse with my wife, and it was like no caffeine, no booze, it was just like vegetables, water, fruit, that's it. And I do that twice a year with her. She's an acupuncturist and Chinese herbalist, so she's like super dialed in on all of that stuff. And it's really nice to do that for your body. And, you know, I don't drink a lot, but I'm a huge bourbon and scotch fan. So, like, we have really awesome bottles of that stuff floating around the bar. But, you know, I was like, cool, I'm just not going to drink for the month. And I didn't really think twice about it. So I think I'm kind of like that with most things. But if I'm into something, I'm, like, super into it, you know. But, yeah, I guess the music industry is, you know, it can come and go, but the 80s was like, yeah, that's a totally different thing. Now that you're not selling 20 million records and you're flying around, everyone's in a 747 with their name of their band on. It's like, that's over, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And I think more people are a little bit maybe humble that are huge stars now. You know, I've got guys following me and emailing me on Instagram and stuff that I'm like, these guys are huge players, but they're like chill enough to just shoot me an email or say, hey, I really dug that clip you posted. And I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
But that's the social media thing that ties in everything. I mean, that's how we probably know each other, you know?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. In fact, the first thing that I saw that the first thing that caught my attention with what you posted was you did a shuffle that modulated into like a rock groove, and now all of a sudden your right hand that was playing the shuffle is now playing like a dotted note figure, and then you sped it up. Yeah. You modulated again into like a double time shuffle, and then you went back down with it. And I'm like, all right, this dude, this guy he knows what's happening. So, and I actually, I went home after a gig and late. I was still in a suit, and went down to my practice room in my studio and did it and posted it. And I think that's the first time that you and I had communicated. I think you had replied to it or something. But that video got like 20,000 views. I was like, what? Yeah, what kind of magical groove did Carter make up here?
But that's what blows my mind, man. It's like everything, when I explain these things in private lessons or at clinics and stuff, it's really, again, I'm a huge fan of taking like single stroke roll, double stroke roll, and, you know, to me, that's kind of it. A paradiddle is those two things put together, I guess, if you want to call it. But if you have really good, solid, like truly solid command over a double stroke roll and a single stroke roll, that's kind of what I'm using. You know, if you break it down, you know, sometimes you'll do threes in each hand or whatever, but it's a combination of just those two things and throwing in a single kick drum or a double kick drum, and now you have these odd phrases you can use. And so it's not like, I never did drum corps or went super hardcore and geeked out on that stuff, because to me, it was too much information that 99.9% of the people in the world will just not associate with.
That's very
and I just not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm blown away when I see those guys. I'm like, holy moly, they must have practiced that for so long. But I hear things way more swung out like a New Orleans thing than super tight military perfection. Because that to me is like, it's cool to try to get perfect, but to me, there's no such thing as perfect. It's like, you know, it should feel really good. My wife should be dancing if I'm playing something. You know what I mean? That's my goal. Right. To like get the women or whoever, get everybody just to dance and like feel good. You know, and to me, that's the drummer's job, not to put on a clinic and just like go to town and show people how fast they are. You know, that's such a popular thing right now.
Yeah. I feel like you've done a really good job with your social media as far as posting things that are kind of technically baffling. Like the thing you do with accenting every fifth note, and you go through singles and doubles and paradiddles.
Right.
But you're accenting every fifth note. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. No, I mean, I was just shedding that this morning so I can teach it at the clinic. Because I mean, that's the thing, man. I got to make sure that I can do this stuff.
Exactly.
You know? It's like,
I know, but then you'll
easy,
post something nice, like nice groove, something that's kind of funky and interesting, but it's not like. But
not hard. You know, it's
exactly.
Like, I'm not trying to prove to everybody that I'm some slick drummer. There's plenty of those guys out there already. I feel like I'm kind of combating the gospel chops thing by saying, hey, you know what, guys? It's totally cool and equally as valuable, if not more valuable, to just play something simple that feels nice. You know?
Yeah.
And you could throw in one little thing here and there that's not difficult, but technically, like, I check out a lot of people's press rolls or press strokes on one hand. And they're kind of usually not happening. They kind of sound real gritty, where to me a perfect buzz roll would sound just like the ocean or like white noise. You know what I mean? That's perfect.
Yep.
And if you have control over that, that's the most useful thing on a kit, because we don't get whole notes that we can control. That's really the only way you can get, if somebody says play a whole note on the drums, you can't hit a snare drum and go, well, there you go. It's kind of like, well, that's like a 30-second note or something. So basic stuff. Again, I ask guys, can you do a press roll? They go, yeah, I can do it. And I hear it. I'm like, man, that is garbage. Like, you got to work on that, you know?
Right.
And I'm not trying to be mean, but it's real, you know, because guys ask me what it takes to sub on Lion King and different, you know, if guys wanted to cover me on a Charlie Hunter gig or something, I'm like, these are the things you have to have locked. And if you don't, you're going to look foolish. So I'm just telling you, in reality, on a real gig, what you need to have together. And playing 64th notes with your feet between your foot and your floor tom is not one of them. You know what I mean?
Right.
So again, it's probably like, I feel like an old fart, like broken record, but it's like basic stuff, man. And then just be creative with it, you know?
Well, the thing that's great, and I kind of got a little insight when you said your mom was an interior designer and your dad was a investor. You have very meticulous attention to detail in what you do, and I mean that's exactly what your parent did.
Oh yeah.
Every meticulous detail, it needs to be right. It needs to be clean. It needs to be, it needs to be efficient. Like those are the kinds of traits that I see in you, and it's obvious that that's how you grew up. Very clear.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I mean, everything should have a purpose. If there's something in your house, it should be useful and have a purpose. Otherwise, get rid of it. You know what I mean? I mean,
right.
That's how I see it. And just aesthetically, you want to be in a space that feels comfortable and obviously, inspiring to you. And so, when I'm working in Times Square every day, it's just purely chaotic. So when I come home, I want to have stuff be organized. When I turn something on, it should work and should sound good. And I don't have a ton of gear in my studio. Right now I have 6 preamps. They're all BAE pre's. I'm just sitting in front of my desk right now looking at how clean everything is. And it's like, I have that. I plug my Earthworks mics or whatever into them and play. And people are like, man, what's your secret? And I'm like, there's no secret, dude. It's get a good pre and a good mic. And if you know how to play, it'll sound really good, or it should.
Right. Are you using you using 2 mics usually when you do your, just a video post?
Yeah, like 90% of the time. I'll experiment because I've been working with Earthworks lately on designing some stuff. And so we've been, they just came out with this new clip-on tom mic that's super rad. So they sent me a prototype set of those, and they just wanted my feedback. And I gave it to them, and they changed, actually, the bass drum mic was way too hot, the sensitivity of it. So I was like, man, even with a pad on this thing, it's still overloading the line. And so they designed one called you know what? I'm going to go look at this thing because it's going to drive me nuts because I helped design this thing. The SR20 LS, which means basically low sensitivity. And just little things like that. But so right now I'm looking at my setup and I have that in front of my 18-inch kick, about 2 inches. And I'm actually going to be making a video for them. They're sending me another, one of their mic pre's. They make these amazing, beautiful, super clean, unbelievable clarity mic preamps. And I'm going to do a demo of how I use that pre with their mics and how I get my sound and set it up. But yeah, overhead, mono overhead and kick. So 2 mics, man. And it's if you balance your own playing, which you should be able to do, it sounds dope,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've A-B'd it. I've done mics on everything, on the toms, on the snare, on the kick, stereo overheads. And it's cool. It's a more modern kind of thing. But to me, the way I hear things and my favorite records from, a lot of jazz guys is more of an ambient kind of older school approach, which might have been just one mic kind of near the drums. And that was the drum set mic, back in the day.
Right.
So the whole less is more thing is, to me, actually true a lot of the time. It's easy to get caught up in the gear. But, having a good chain of gear makes a difference. There's a lot of clarity and detail and symbols that you might not get with some stuff,
your pre's and mics should definitely have some quality.
Yeah.
Although, even though when you say that, Blair was telling me about a microphone that he got that was this $25 mic that has a capsule in a gunshot shell.
Oh my God.
And he just completely overdrives it, and that becomes kind of like a room sort of effect sound, but
like the crunch mic, yeah.
Total crunch mic, and it was $30 or something.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Look, that's the thing. That mic has a very specific purpose, you can't use that for your mono overhead, so invest in that kind of stuff when you can,
Exactly,
but,
yeah.
And there's also, I've recorded clips just randomly when I was running out of the house. I was like, I should post this groove really quickly. It's kind of fun. And I'll just set up my iPhone and just hit go and post that, and that'll get 20,000 views. People are like, man, this sounds dope. And I'm like, well, okay, cool. It's that's my phone, but all right.
That's crazy.
You never know. But yeah, there's a lot of gear out there, and there's lot of stuff you don't need. I've had companies, especially just drum companies, they're like, hey man, really like what you're doing. Can we send you this product to check out and maybe do a post if you like it? And like some of them I say, yeah, cool. Like a lot of these, like, other companies, I totally say yes and love what they make. But I'll just straight up tell people, like, look, man, it's a cool thing, but it's not my thing. So I'm not gonna even have you send one because I don't want to waste your money,
Right, right.
So anything I'm using, I really do use. People are like, oh, people just send you that, and I'm like, yeah, some people do send me that stuff, and some people, don't. And I like the cowbell I bought at Revival. The thing wasn't cheap, man, but I was like, this is a dope sound. I've never heard anything else like it. I'm buying it.
Yeah, right.
So you got to believe in what you're playing. Otherwise, you just become kind of like a NASCAR driver wearing kind of a jumpsuit with a million names on it.
Oh, God, it's so easy nowadays, especially because there's so many boutique companies that are pushing their stuff out, and there's a lot of awesome stuff. It's amazing. There's such an explosion with drum gear in particular, I feel.
It's a double-edged sword, because that allows this room for, everyone on their phone can have kind of their own product store now. So there's a lot of really janky stuff out there, but also there's some amazing products being made, like this guy Scott who started Tackle Instruments, who makes cymbal bags and sticks bags and stuff. His stuff is so dope. I mean, that's all the stuff I'm taking on tour is tackle stuff, just because it's really thoughtful, it's really well made, and it's like a drummer who's a badass drummer and who tours is designing this stuff. So he sent me this little pouch thing. He's like, dude, clip that onto the stick bag and tell me what you think. And I was like, this is the perfect holder for my phone, my earplugs, and like a pen or a marker. If I have to sign anything after the gig, it's like boom, and it just attaches to the stick bag, and that's what goes on tour. It's just like thoughtful, and it's really nicely made. It's like really nice leather.
Scott is the most humble dude. I couldn't even believe how soft spoken and humble he was when I met him at the Chicago drum show. I was at the talking to the low boy beater guys, and Scott walks up and says, "Are you Rich Stitzel?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You post really crazy videos with coordination." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Those are really cool, man." I'm like, "Thanks." And I'm like, "Who is this guy?" He didn't say anything.
Right.
And then someone else introduced him, and I'm like, "You're Scott McPherson?" Oh my God, man.
Yeah.
You never see his face until recently, but
sure.
He was so humble. He gave me a bag, and I'm like, "Dude, you are such a generous, kind soul and such a great artisan." It was awesome. Very cool. Have you been to his shop, his little shop yet?
I haven't. We were trying to figure out I was going to try to get to do a clinic out there at some point. And I'm sure it'll happen at some point just when the timing works out. I've just been crazy busy. Like between now and March, my schedule is just totally bananas. Like I'm doing this tour starting tomorrow for 2 weeks. I get home. I do one Lion King show. Then it's basically Christmas. Then it's New Year's. Then I'm doing a record at my house with Charlie Hunter and this girl, Shelby Johnson, who's amazing singer. She sang with Prince for 10 years. She was like the girl running around at the Super Bowl halftime show singing with Prince. So that's going to be a really cool trio record. Then the day after they leave, I'm gutting my kitchen and doing a renovation on our kitchen. Then a few days after that, we get a puppy. And then at that point, then I fly out to NAMM for 2 days. I'll be at NAMM Thursday, Friday. Then I fly north to Sacramento to do a 3-day camp with Mike Johnston at his facility. Then I go do an in-store clinic with him the following day, fly home. Then we're basically in February. And then the end of February, I'm doing a 4-day workshop with Mike Johnston and Mike Dawson out near about an hour and a half from my house in New York State. So it's just like this year is going to be absolutely nuts. And then there's some other stuff I'm working on with Ron that will be coming out later in the spring that I have to keep my mouth shut about. But this is busy. And then in between all that, doing Lion King and teaching.
Right.
So
right. Yeah.
It's good, man. I'm happy to be busy.
Absolutely. Yeah. It seems like there's so much work right now. Like in Chicago, there's so much work.
That's amazing.
And I think it feels like it's that way. I don't know. It seems like that's how everyone's experience is right now, which is great.
People are busy, which is good. I mean, it's definitely
happening.
Well, man, it would be cool to get you. God, if you went to Minneapolis and did his store, it'd be cool to get you to Chicago to do something.
Yeah,
maybe
I know.
we could figure something out.
I talked with Chicago. Was it Chicago Drum Exchange? Is that the name?
Uh-huh.
I was emailing them a while back, and they're like, "Look, if you're ever out in this way with Charlie or whoever, like, we'd love to have you come in and do something." Or I don't know where people would do stuff out there, but that seems like a cool shop. Do you do a lot of clinics out there?
You know, it's not in my own city much. I might do, I'll do some colleges. I'll go to a college and work with just their drummers. But, I haven't really done any clinics here. I've done, like a 4-week intensive at Vic's Drum Shop. They had me come in and basically do an intensive on that first book. I think I sent you a copy of the foundational series book.
Yes,
yeah, we did
really cool.
We did a deal. Yeah, the new one's coming out. In fact, I pick it up tomorrow, and that one is crazy.
Well, the first one's hard enough, man.
The first one's hard, I know.
I mean, I still am looking through some of that stuff going like, man, how's he doing that? But that's the fun thing, man. It's just an ongoing thing. I mean, the only book that I ever worked out of was Gary Chester's New Breed, and like the composite systems at the end of that were like, are you kidding me? I have to do this now, and I have to sing this and play a left-hand lead. I was like, this is tough. But useful stuff, man. It's like real stuff, you know. And it makes you open up your ears to what's possible on the drums, you know.
Sure. But that's kind of what I've done. I mean, I do clinics at colleges and churches and things in other states. But not, I guess, probably because I'm so busy when I'm in town that I just don't even think about it.
Yeah, well, that's a good position to be in, you know? It's like, I don't have time to do that. I'm already busy. So,
and I feel like everyone else is so busy, too. So it's like...
Well, yeah, you know, I mean, luckily, most people I know are running around doing stuff, you know. And the only reason I booked these 2 clinics on this tour is because I had a day off right before Vancouver. So Ron said, hey, do you want to do a clinic up in Vancouver? I'll just fly you up on the day off and it'll be easy. And I said, yeah, done. And then Revival said, hey, we saw you're going to be in the area playing in Portland. Do you want to do something? I said, sure, man, that'd be great. So that's how those happen. So it's always pretty organic how that comes about.
When I'm on the road, I definitely overbook myself. That's when I go crazy with stuff. Like, I'm going to be in your city. Let's do a workshop, and I'll just kill myself because I'm not with my family. I'm just by myself.
Yeah, it's like, spend time in the hotel or teach. You know, it's like I'd rather be teaching.
Right.
So. Yeah. Charlie, I mean, I did a tour. The last tour I did, I was booking lessons, and like some days I couldn't even get to a drum set, and the guys were like, "Look, I'll come to your hotel and just work on hand stuff and ideas." I said, "Great." So I taught 3 hours straight in my hotel room before the gig, and Charlie was like, man, how do you do that before you go and play like a 2-hour set? I was like, man, I'd rather be doing that than watching some garbage television or just, you know, doing nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm already getting emails from a bunch of different locations for this California run and, you know, Oregon and all that stuff. So we'll see how many. The problem is when you're touring, it's hard to, you know, if you roll in, you got sound check and you might have an hour or 2 to kill.
Exactly. Right.
Like, well, I can teach you while I'm eating my dinner. If you really, you know, it's like there's very limited time a lot of these shows. So we'll see. I'll try to fit in as many as I can, and hopefully the people that are in the area can make the clinic, which will be like, you know, basically a long drum lesson. So
that's great.
Yeah,
very
should be cool.
Well, we should definitely get something on the back burner and move it a little bit forward with getting you to Chicago in some capacity. I mean, my wife owns a yoga studio, and there's definitely enough room to put, 40 people for a clinic in there.
Oh, right. That's very cool.
And the Drum Exchange is great. They've got a nice little area. So
yeah, I'm down. I mean, I've told a lot of shops, and like guys keep hitting me up on Instagram. Hey man, when are you going to come and do a UK tour? And when are you going to come to Ireland to do a clinic? And I'm like, I'm happy to do that, but I can't fly to Ireland for $200. You know, it's like,
right.
You know, like one, like a real, I'm not going to say who it is, but like a very legit music school in Europe, you know, it has a very legit name, emailed and said, hey, we'd love to get you over here, but, we can pay you $300. And I was like, okay. And then on top of that, they're like, and we can't cover any of your travel. I was like, dude, I'd be in the hole $2,500 before I even got there. Like, what are you talking about?
Wow.
You know?
That's very strange.
So it's just nuts what people's expectations are. It's like, well, or I could just stay home and play Lion King and make some good bread and go home. you know.
Yeah.
But I love teaching. I'm not going to lose thousands of dollars to go do it.
I'm not going to name the person that I'm going to tell you this little short story about. I'm not going to name him.
Yes, I already love this story.
Because I don't even want, okay, that's enough. Enough said with that. But he was going to do, I'm from Texas, by the way. I grew up in Texas. I've been in Chicago for 15 years, 16 years. But so I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas. And so this drummer was coming into town to be the guest artist with the big band at one of the colleges in town. And his fee for coming in for the day, doing the clinic workshop with the band and doing the concert that night was $3,000 for the day. And,
okay.
You know, no problem. The head of the music department was totally cool with that. And so he flew in and all of a sudden a bill shows up. You know, they did the concert and everything, and then all of a sudden a bill shows up, and it was a bill for a $3,000 first class plane ticket to go there.
Wow.
And so he said anytime he travels first class, and he never buys a ticket until he walks into the airport. So so $6,000 to have this artist for, you know, less than 12 hours.
Unbelievable. I mean,
isn't that crazy?
And that's the thing, man. Like, you got to take into account that, you know, everyone's busy, and if you're at a certain level, yeah, like you deserve, I guess, a certain amount of money or something. But at the end of the day, you got to be reasonable, man. It's like, look, dude, I'll fly in the back of the plane. I don't need some golden seat to sit in to play the drums. You know what I mean? It's like, but I'm also not going to pay out of my pocket for something that's my job. That's otherwise it's like, what am I doing?
Right.
But that's crazy, man. And also that's one thing to say up front, I need to fly first class and it's going to cost you guys an extra $3,000. That guy probably would have said, well, I can't do that. You know what I mean? But again,
exactly.
The person forced the hand of that, and that's just not a classy move.
That's why I'm not going to name who it is, because the whole world knows who this person is. But
right, well, and
the world of drummers.
I don't even fly. I have to fly on a private jet if you want me to come out to Chicago to do anything. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna just throw that out there, right? And I need at least a medium-sized limo to pick me up at the airport.
I think there's an Amtrak from your town to Chicago.
Oh,
train.
That's cool too. We could do that. That's fine.
24 hours on the train. Yeah.
It's
well, you know,
it's
crazy,
industry.
Especially when you think of people in other, people who speak, like a motivational speaker, like I don't even know, but they will charge anywhere from $25,000 to $100,000 to speak for an hour.
That's kind of insane.
It is insane. I think the highest paid speaker is Bill Clinton. For some reason, I think he gets like $250,000 for an hour or something, or for 20 minutes. I don't know.
That's
but
insane. It is bizarro to me.
Yeah, but you have like I don't know if do you listen to any podcasts? Do you do that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, I don't listen to some people have so many, that they're like, oh, I listen to this one and this one and this one. I listen to this entrepreneur guy, Gary V, a lot, just because I think he's pretty smart in how he deals with things, and he's very relevant these days.
I'm pretty addicted to Gary V.
He was actually like doing some video thing right outside of the Lion King in a cab, and I knew exactly where he was, and it was a live Instagram thing in a cab, and I was literally like, I could run out there, and he's out there right now, but I'm not going to be that guy, which is kind of crazy, but I should have. He probably would have been into it.
You should be that guy. I mean, he's near you a lot. That'd be hilarious for you to show up on one of those
If I ever actually just saw him walking down the street, I'd go give him this big high five and be like, thanks. Because he's just very positive, and that's, to me, what people need to be more of these days, because there's so much negativity floating around right now, especially right now. I mean, the girl, Silvano, that was supposed to be on this tour with us, got denied her visa because she's from Mexico.
I saw that. Yeah, that's
and
nuts,
it's just,
man.
It's like, come on. So that kind of, it's embarrassing, honestly, but I'm not going to dive down that rabbit hole. So, I mean, the thing is, it's just like, to me, it's, you show up, you kind of like put out your best foot forward and just, try to be authentic in whatever you're doing and really buy what you're doing. Don't pretend you're some other artist and you want to be like this guy, or you're going to all of a sudden have a new agenda because Instagram is trending this way or that way. It's like, look, I think people are following me too, because I'm pretty honest and straight up, and I'm very easily accessible. When people message me, I usually get back to them that day. and try to answer any questions they have, you know, as long as it's not like a resume I need to write. And just being a normal person, I feel like I'm just every other drummer out there that I meet. I'm like, dude, I'm just like you. You know, I've just been practicing longer. Just stick with it. You know, that's it.
Right. Did you, I think when I first became aware of you, you had around like 26,000 people. Because I remember watching those numbers grow very quickly. You went from like 26 to 30 real quick.
Yeah, I mean, it went from 10 to 30 or whatever pretty quick. I mean,
really?
I remember I woke up one day and was like, whoa, I have 10,000 followers. Like, it just kind of happened. And then a few days, like, you know, a few months later, it's like, oh, now I have 20. It just doubled in a very short amount of time. It goes through weird jumps because I watch it and I'm like, you know, in one day sometimes I'll get a few hundred followers in a day. And I'm like, what did I do? I don't know. Like, maybe somebody posted a video on some drummer chat channel or something. I have no idea. But it's interesting. And then it'll go by a bunch of days where I'll have like 1 or 2 followers, you know, and then I'll look at it and a bunch of people will unfollow, you know. So I try to not worry about it and just post stuff that's interesting to me and stuff that might help somebody that's living in the middle of who knows where they don't have access to like a big city or certain things, and just try to kind of come at it from that angle.
Yeah. I really like how you also post other people's stuff. Like you just posted a Brian Blade thing or a Jack DeJohnette thing. That's
how
great.
Can you not? You know,
I know. It's so cool though. It's
yeah. Well, there's some. I mean,
real.
That's people are like, man, that's such a cool thing you did at 2 minutes and 37 seconds in that video. And then I'm like, all right, go listen to this song that Idris Muhammad is playing, and you can see who actually came up with it. I'm just, you know, it's like everyone else. I'm not taking credit for any of this stuff. People are like, man, that 5 thing you're doing is so cool. And I'm like, yeah, you know how I came up with that? I just added a bass drum, and now you have 5 notes instead of 4. You know, it's not like it's some thing. It's music, you know? It's like somebody says like, oh, to a bass player, like, I really love how you're slapping the bass. It's like, yeah, I mean, you know, Larry Graham might have come up with it, but it's just a sound, you know? It's just like, what's the music? People get so wrapped up in the technique a lot of the times they forget that we're playing music, you know? And
right.
That's what I'm trying to push more than anything. It's like, be a total musician. And I'm not saying I am, but I'm trying to be. You know what I mean? Like, I play bass and guitar a little bit, and like every day at soundcheck with Charlie, I get excited because I try to figure out his instrument. So, because I play fingerstyle guitar, so I can kind of, and when I say kind of, I mean like 0.001% play his instrument. So I can get a little bass line and like one chord happening, but it grooves because I understand the sound of it. And then he'll play drums because he's an amazing drummer. And that, to me, is you can kind of understand each other's perspectives that way because you're actually playing each other's instruments.
Right.
So, you know, being open to that and wanting to do that is, I think, really important.
This is for Four Hands Drumming, your website.
Sorry, what was that?
Your focus for your Four Hands Drumming educational side, is it more focused on exactly what you're saying right now? Just music, playing music, getting sounds?
Yeah. I mean, I started that originally. I mean, this was like a while ago. It was myself. Well, Matt Johnson hit me up one day. He was a buddy of mine, and he said, man, I saw this Drumeo clinic thing you did, and it got like so many views. Like, we could do some teaching kind of thing like that at your studio. And I was like, yeah, maybe we should do that. So he's like, I think we should do 3 guys. It'll be me, you know, him. This is Matt Johnson. So when we were designing it, it was myself, Matt Johnson, and Mark Giuliano. And so we sat down and had like 3 or 4 meetings in the city about what we were going to do, and the fact that all 3 of us were very different style of players. And at the time, Mark's book DVD was like, I think was either getting filmed or they were asking him to do it. And I was just like, man, you should just do that. Like, that's such a good avenue for you to go down right now. It's kind of a home run. Just go do that. And so when that happened, it was like, I was asking Matt, maybe we should just not do it if it's not the 3 of us. He said, well, the 2 of us can do it. I said, okay. Because I didn't want to do anything by myself. It's not really fun to just sit in a room by yourself and do all the filming, all the editing, all the teaching, all the content. It's a lot of work, as you know. You know, just making a 1-minute clip takes time, you know. But talk about providing an hour or an hour and a half lesson of just smack content that's packed in there. It's a lot. And so Matt and I did the first couple episodes and started it, and then some really awful stuff happened to him personally that was just super horrible. And I just said, look, man, you need to be focusing on your family and everything right now. So let's just take a time out. And he was like, yeah, you're right. He's like, I got to sort of focus on this. So I basically ended up just doing everything from then on out. Matt's in like the first, I think 3 or 4 episodes, which is really great because he has such a cool perspective on things. And I've kind of capped it now. I think there's 14 or 15 episodes, so you're getting about 15 or 16 hours worth of stuff. And I just haven't had a lot of time to film anything new. So as of now, you pay a one-time fee for the year, and you get all of whatever's on the site. You get, it's not like you buy this lesson, you buy that lesson. It's just like you pay for the year. You can watch it on your phone. You can watch it on your computer. And there's like little sub-mini lessons on a couple of the episodes. And I go through everything. Basic tuning, how I tune an 18-inch bass drum to how I get my snare drum sound in different tunings, why I use the heads. I do a whole lesson on miking and microphone technique and one mic versus, 10 mics and how that sounds different. And I just slowly add mics around the kit so you can hear that. I do a whole bunch of stuff on technique and augmenting your kit, playing appropriate songs or parts for songs. So I have like a couple play along tunes that I would send people that are subscribers to play along with. So just stuff like that. I did an episode with Charlie just talking about what he looks for in a drummer, which is cool to get, from Tom Barney, who's the bass player at Lion King. It's one of my really good buddies who's played with, Miles Davis and Steely Dan and Elton John, Michael Jackson. I mean, he came out and we talked. We mostly just talked, and I said, man, you've played with Sonny Emery and Dennis. I mean, he's played with everybody. I said, what do you look for? And I think that's super valuable because you're getting it from the guy who's going to be giving you the call. Most drummers aren't calling you. It's like, oh, this bass player I know needs a drummer. And they're going to call you,
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to do stuff that has helped me and, perspectives that have helped me on my little road because everybody's road is totally different, and it's great. They're all unique. But if there's something that I can tell some younger guy that's trying to make it happen and it helps him along his way, I think that's a win,
Yeah.
So,
is that going well?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of like, it goes in waves because it's like the info that's up there is up there. So if somebody's had it for a year, they're probably not going to resubscribe unless they didn't get through everything in that year. I kind of did it as a side supplemental, not even to make a bunch of bread, just people kept asking me the same stuff. Hey, can you show me how, I literally get asked this every day. Like, how do you tune your drums? How do you tune your bass drum? What heads are you using? And I try to really answer everybody, but at the same time, I'm like, man, this is like, I should just do a lesson on how I tune. So that's how this all started. So a lot of that stuff when people say, hey, you should do a lesson on technique or da-da-da-da, I'm like, look, man, I charge $120 for an hour private. The subscription for the year is $165. So for $45 more, you get like 15 drum lessons versus 1. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, totally. Right.
And if they have that info and want to do a private with me, just so I can give them really specific feedback about their hands or their feel or touch or any of that stuff, then we can do that. But I tell most people, man, and not because I'm just trying to, make the money. It's not about that. I could have charged a lot more money for it. People are like, man, you're kind of not charging a lot for a whole year. I said, look, man, I want somebody, I think it's like $12 or $13 a month. I wanted it to be like 3 cups of coffee can get you a month. You know what I mean? So, and the nice thing is it's all my thing. So if I want to add a lesson tomorrow, I can do that. And I will when I have more time. But I don't want to just put up a lesson every month just to put up a lesson every month. I feel like right now I've covered a ton of stuff that's there. So if you can get through every lesson and everything I talk about in those 15 episodes, then you should get a private if you can play all that stuff. And then we can really dive into some crazy stuff. It's like until then, it's like, man, why would you call me for a private if you still can't do lesson number 4? You know what I mean? So, and it's cool. People that have subscribed, which has been actually, I'm surprised how many people have subscribed. I've gotten a lot of personal messages saying, man, this is amazing education. It's super, super helpful. And, thank you for doing this. And it's cool. I really do appreciate everybody. People chime in every day and send me messages that are like really heartfelt encouraging stuff, and it's like, how can that not feel good?
Right.
Just trying to be I just feel like honesty, man, wins at the end of the day. Like, not being cocky, knowing that I'm not the biggest thing to happen to drums. It's just like, I could care less about that stuff. I still feel like I'm on my little path, and if people want to chime in and walk along with me, that's cool too. That's fun. But I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody, where I see some people out there and they're really trying, like, so over the top on things. I'm like, man, this does not feel natural to me at all, But that's it. Just trying to be honest and have some clarity in my playing. That would be it.
Yeah.
Be my life in a nutshell.
Do you have any kind of practice regimen that you do daily, or do you practice much?
I don't. Well,
warm up.
For me, I don't have a warm up. I mean, people are always asking me, like, man, what do you do when you get to Lion King or when you get to? I'm like, I literally pick up the sticks, put in my in-ears, and play. There's no doing singles on my leg. I mean, I play every day, so my hands are at a certain kind of level all the time.
Right.
Like, if somebody says, sit down and play a blazing single stroke roll, like, I can do that. It's not something I need to work up to. To me, when I sit down, like, I'm literally just looking at my kit right now. When I sit down and play now, I'm trying to work off of, like, some melodic phrase. Like, the other day I sat down and I played doot-dee, doot-dee between my 4-tom rack and snare, and I was like, oh, Love Supreme, that's the melody for that's cool. So I just went off on that for a while and just played around that idea. And tried to sound like Elvin Jones, which is not happening for me, but it's fun to try, And just, exploring sounds and space more than anything. It's kind of easy to sit down and just blaze a bunch of nonsense. People get wowed by it, and it's kind of like candy. It's easy, but it's not maybe the best thing for you. And to me, I'm trying to, like, deliver maybe more organic food versus candy, like something that actually tastes pretty good and is actually really a lot better for you than you know. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's kind of a silly analogy maybe, but it's maybe a good one too. Because, to me, the drums, you only have a couple notes. You're not going to be playing like a musical concerto. I mean, Ari Honey might be able to do that, but I can't hear it that way. And so I just take it for the 4 notes, like on a 4-piece kit. That's what you got, and you got a couple pitches on your cymbals. And touch to me is a huge thing, man. I really try to practice all my rudiments, the 2 rudiments I use, singles and doubles, at like very extreme volume levels, like as quiet as possible. Like, I try to picture like an 85-year-old couple having dinner right next to my hi-hat, and I have to play a blazing fast single stroke roll but not blow them away. You know what I mean? And I'm talking like the sticks are coming a half inch off the head. That's how quiet.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's maybe too high. And just always trying to push. Like, when I tell people to play a groove, they always come out playing like forte to double forte, and they're like, I'm going to really blow this guy away. Check this out. I'm like, cool, man, great groove. Let's play it at triple pianissimo, but same vibe, same intensity, but just super quiet. And they can't do it. They lose, they slow down, the intensity's not there. And that's stuff that's actually, you need to be able to do on a gig, is play quietly.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because playing hard is not, you wind up and hit the drums. That doesn't, technique-wise, it's not crazy. But playing quiet is hard, especially if you're playing ding, jiggy, ding, jiggy, ding, jiggy, ding, jiggy, ding, jiggy, ding, jiggy, ding, on a ride cymbal. There's a tune with Charlie that we got to play this crazy up bebop thing at the head. And he never even told me we were going to do this tune when we played it. And he's like, oh, yeah, this is kind of like an up-tempo thing in the beginning. And I was like, okay, because he doesn't really like to rehearse. And he starts going like ding, 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 ding. And I'm like, oh, boy, this is really quick. Okay. But, like, my hands can do it, but it's also, you got to wrap your head around that tempo, but playing it really, really quiet makes it a lot more hip than just, like, blazing loud, When you can have that kind of control, it's very, very useful, I think. And then the musicians are happy because you're not just crushing loud drums and cymbals in their face all night.
Totally. I come home from a 5-hour corporate gala with a 15-piece band, and I'm okay at the end of it. If I come home from a 3-hour quiet jazz gig, I'm exhausted. And I think maybe you've got to your mental game on jazz is so much different than playing a pop gig. But the physical control of playing really soft and keeping the spirit of the music alive, it's incredibly difficult and challenging. But you're right. I mean, it's so important. I love that. I love playing soft and challenging that.
Well, it becomes to me, it becomes a totally different instrument when you have that kind of finesse, like, it's just more pleasing. Like, just to be around. When somebody comes in and just starts bashing a drum kit, I'm like, God, man, I don't even want to be in the same room right now, let alone what you're playing. You know?
Right. One of the things that challenges me, I'd like to get your perspective on this. I love to tune low. I always say it's the Texas in me, but I just love big sounding low drums. I play like the Walnut Craviotto kit, and I did a record in Nashville a while ago. I remember the engineer brought a snare drum out, and he said, this drum is finger tight. Like, I tuned this, the lugs are just as tight as my fingers can make them. And that was the snare that went onto the record. Now, that was new for me at that time. This was probably 20 years ago now.
Wow.
And from that point on, I always have that phrase in my head, finger tight. So when you're playing a little bit, with a little bit more intensity, I definitely don't hit hard. I grew up in a jazz household, and I'm a quiet drummer, but you can get some tone when the drums are tuned a little lower with some energy behind the stick. The thing is, when I go into a quiet situation, I don't like to tune my drums up into the bebop range.
Right, yeah.
You can get so much sound out of barely touching a tom that's really cranked.
Oh yeah,
I'm always challenging myself with the tunings when I know I'm going to be playing a very quiet gig. I still like to have what I consider would be my sound, which is the lower tunings. And it's just like, if you don't hit the drum in the right place when the tom is loose, there might not be any sound coming out of the drum just because there's nowhere for it to resonate. Do you change your tunings based on the gig is going to be, the intensity of the gig?
Yeah, I mean, it's also just my mood. I think people, when they say, I really dig your sound, I mean, maybe they think of more of an open sounding kit, and I don't really mute and muffle the drums a ton. But like, I use an 18-inch bass drum a lot of the time with Charlie. This next tour is going to be a 20, which I'm excited to kind of check out, because I'm going to just, they're going to be closed-headed kick drum with nothing in it, with fiber skin diplomats on both sides. And I'll probably tune it. I'm just picturing how I'm going to tune the kit for this tour. I'll probably tune it like medium low, pretty floppy, but when you have nothing in it, you still have this like little bit of tone if you feather the bass drum. But you still, when you like wail it, you get a nice punch out of it. And for the size rooms, like we're doing a couple small theaters and then we're doing a couple small clubs, and it's going to sound killer. The toms, I'll probably tune medium. Like, I never crank to like bebop zone, because to me it kind of chokes the drum out. It's just, you take all the tone and the beauty of the drum, and it's just like, ding, gone. But if you're Bill Stewart, it sounds, yeah, and if you're Bill Stewart, it sounds amazing. His floor tom is like cranked, but he sounds like a beast on all that stuff, because that's his thing. I kind of tune the toms medium, and then like with Charlie, my regular setup is like 2 snare drums and a bass drum. And so I'll put like, Scott sent me one of these towels from Tackle. It's like a little rag basically that clips on, and I'll throw that on and off the snare all night, or I'll detune 2 of the lugs really quickly if we're playing like a slow ballad or a blues where it kind of needs to be a little bit more dead and kind of fat and like loose. I'll go that really quickly. I mean, I'm always changing, I have a bunch of videos of shows on YouTube of Charlie and I. And if you watch the whole set, I probably tune the drums a bunch and put different things on, big fat snare drum mutes or whatever on them. Like I brought probably 5 different big fat snare drum mutes on this tour, just because I know some of the tunes we're playing are like kind of Motown vibe. And when you have your toms tuned kind of medium tight, let's say, so there's like a nice tone ring happening, if you throw those 2 big fat snare mutes on the toms, it literally drops it like over an octave in pitch. I don't know. It's just a physics thing. Yeah, I guess it's physics, but you immediately go from this kind of nice, warm, open sounding ring to like, oh, these are the toms from like Michael Jackson's, Thriller or something, where it's just like super fat and punchy, and it takes 4 seconds to do it. And you don't even have to tune anything. So those things are really rad for that. But yeah, it's also mood, man. Sometimes I want to show up, and I've been listening to like Zigaboo all day or James Brown, and I'm just like, man, I am just going to crank my snare drum tonight, Right. And it's great for certain things, but it doesn't work at all for other things, So just knowing what you can pull out of a drum and little tricks, obviously the looser I tune it, the looser I have my snares, because if you have the snares cranked like you would on a tight snare drum, it's going to sound horrible when you detune it.
Right.
So like letting it breathe, like when you have a real loose snare drum head on the top, you want those snares to kind of match the looseness of the head. So I would loosen them like 3 clicks at least. You know, but that's just stuff you learn as you get in different situations. And then on a rock gig, like if I'm playing with my brother, who's an amazing guitar player and singer, I mean, I'll just like kind of go like Stephen Ferroni on it and just like kind of have a nice ringy, you know, cracking snare and big fat toms, and let's go play some rock tunes.
Yeah.
You know? But to me, the heads are a big part of it. Obviously, you have to have a good shell and a good edge and all that kind of stuff. But like, I just, for my sound lately, I've been really digging, and that's why I called Remo and said, hey, can I grab, you know, just, you know, fiber skin diplomats for basically everything. And they're like, great, cool, should sound dope. So it'll probably be really kind of warm and dark, and the wood hoops on the drums will probably warm it up even more. So I'm going for a very warm, lush drum sound for this tour with some variable snare drum sounds. And then
That's awesome.
I'll probably throw a bunch of metal garbage on some of the toms for alternative snare sounds and stuff. So, I mean, honestly, I don't even know. I won't know until the song starts. And that's typically how we kind of roll. Charlie will look at me and start playing something, and I'm like, okay, cool. And it takes me 2 measures to get it together, and then it's off we go.
You'll be filming some of these shows or all these shows?
I actually just got off the phone with, you know, the company Zoom. They make like a bunch of recorders and stuff. I'm going to be working with them, I think, a teeny bit. And I'm going to grab a video recorder from them. So I'm going to try to record 1 or 2 of the shows. It's just they take up, I don't have a laptop, believe it or not. I own one and I never used it. So I don't really have a way of dumping all the HD video, which takes up like, you know, one concert could be like 3 gigs. So I'll probably only have enough storage to record 1 or 2 shows. So I'll probably wait until later in the tour to record. And I'll probably also try to record some of the clinic I'm doing at Revival and up in Vancouver. But,
that'd be great.
Yeah, I think it'll be cool. The Revival one should be fun because it's sold out and there's a lot of good drummers that live out there. So it'll be cool. But yeah, just getting ready to go out of town. It's kind of weird. 2 weeks. I haven't been out of town in 2 weeks for a while, so.
I'm sure it's going to be nice to get, how's the weather where you are right now? Getting a little cold?
Today is actually very warm. It's going to be like 60 here today, but starting tomorrow morning, it's like low 20s teens. So like today's the last day of any kind of sensible being outside. Then it's going to start snowing, which it should. It's almost, you know, Christmas is coming and we should be getting snow.
Yeah, that's what it was 60 here yesterday and it's 30 right now with 40-mile-an-hour winds. So it definitely has hit. It'll be nice to be on the West Coast, although you'll be kind of north. That'll be perfect. It's always perfect out there.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking like LA is obviously LA. And, you know, as you get north into Vancouver, it'll probably be more like it is here. But most of it is, you know, going to be probably like 50s, 60s. I'm cool with whatever. I like the winter, so I don't get cold easily, but I also like hanging out when it's 80 and sunny in LA. So
yeah, totally.
Get a little bit of every, and I'm hoping there's some crazy wildfires that started this morning, near actually where DW's factory is near Oxnard, California, which is just north of LA.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm hoping all of that is cool and everybody's kind of safe and okay, because that's a super populated area to be getting nailed with a huge wildfire like that.
Yeah, I've been seeing people marking themselves safe on Facebook in that area.
Yeah.
That's how I learned about it. It's like, oh man.
It's, droughts and fires and all that kind of stuff seem to be happening more and more, so it's just gotta be careful.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll see some of that in Northern California from a month ago or so.
Oh yeah. No, we're gonna be driving all up and down all the way from LA all the way up to Vancouver, so we're going to probably see a lot of weird stuff and a lot of, you know, beautiful stuff too. There's some gorgeous stuff out there.
Well, I feel like there's so many other details that would be fun to talk about, but I know that we probably ought to wrap it up. I know you need to take care of a bunch of your things. Yeah,
I've actually got to head into the city in about an hour, so I got to just make sure I have everything packed up. And I'm not forgetting like, oh, I brought everything but my drum key. Perfect.
Right.
You know.
Well, it's fun to talk. It was fun to meet you on the phone. It's kind of a weird way to do things nowadays. Is you never know how you're going to connect with somebody, but
it seems more and more common now to just like meet up online, and then it's like, hey, we should like. I've been talking with Jason McGurr online for a long time, and I was like, we should talk. You know, we've been emailing, so we finally got on the phone and talked. And I'm actually going to be in his hometown in Washington State doing a gig, and he's going to be in LA at that time doing a Death Cab thing. And then when I'm in LA, he's back up in Washington. Like we're literally bypassing each other.
Yeah.
He wanted to come down to the gig, and I was just like, yeah, I'm at the Mint on December 9th in LA. And he's like, dude, I'm missing you by like a day.
Oh, man.
You know, but I'm sure we'll meet up in person at some point. Are you going to NAMM this year, or going to be out that way ever?
Oh, I'm still on the fence about it. Rami wrote us and said I need to have the names in by it's been a couple weeks now. I thought I had a gig that weekend, but the gig is now 2 weekends later and it's in a different city. So anyway, I don't know. I should.
Okay. Well, if you are there, let me know.
Yeah, I know I should be out there, but
you've got a family and stuff too, so like that's obviously more important. But you know, if you do find yourself out there, we'll go out and hang for some.
I have teenage girls. I don't have a family at all.
Oh my God, yeah. You know what? Don't go to NAMM. You've got your hands full.
I never even see them anymore. It's like unless they need a ride somewhere, different world than before. But I would love to get out there. I hope I can. We'll see.
Yeah, just stay in touch.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure talking, man.
Yeah, man, totally. You seem exactly as I expected you to be. It's great. It's great. Day. Well, cool, man. Well, safe travels and have great shows, and I'm sure it's going to be awesome. Any awesome, final words?
I don't know, man. Just be good to each other. That's what I try to do. No matter if you're in a good mood or a bad mood, you got to just remember. People don't know if you've had a good or a bad day, and they might only meet you for an hour or something, but like try to be cool with them no matter what. That's all you can really do at the end of the day.
Great words of wisdom for the future.
Yeah, man, drumming and otherwise, just as a person, just totally cool with folks. Well, cool, man. I'm gonna get rolling, but it was a pleasure talking with you, man, and hopefully everything works out well with the editing. And let's stay in touch.
Cool, man. Thanks, Carter.
All right, Rich. Have a great day, man.
You too. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right. See ya.
All right, there you have it. Quite an in-depth conversation with Carter. It was a lot of fun. Carter's on tour right now on the West Coast with Charlie Hunter, so if he comes to your town and you're out there, you should definitely go check him out. He's also doing some clinics. I think he's already done or he's about to do the Revival Drum Shop, so if you're in that area in Portland, check him out. You can find Carter on all the social medias. His Instagram is instagram.com/CarterMac, M-A-C. His YouTube channel is youtube.com/Carter McLean, M-C-L-E-A-N. His educational website is fourhandsdrumming.com, FOURHANDSDRUMMING.com. And his Facebook page is facebook.com/Carter.McLean.96. Okay, check him out, give him some love, and thank you for listening to the Drum Mantra podcast, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for listening to the Drum Mantra podcast. Your time and attention is much appreciated. I would love it if you went to the iTunes store and left a rating, and please share this with anybody that you think would like to go deeper with their practice. Take care.